Howdy. The haters are going to look at that thumbnail. They're going to say, that's clickbait. The haters just don't understand. This team has a patent on 8 and 4. Aggies have been perennial 8 and 4. They own the patent. Your team goes 8 and 4. You got to pay us money. Pay the piper. And you know what I mean, Seahawks, 12th man Steelers. Going 8 and 4 again, in my mind, is a cause for panic. It brings up questions like, why can't we get over this hump? Or is there just something wrong with A&M? Now, I don't think the answers to these questions are helpful, but just having to entertain them is cause enough to make me want to go searching for that nuclear reactor on campus and maybe try and throw myself into it. I, you know, no violence intended here. But I had us going 9 and 3. So I'm not saying hit the panic button. I just want to establish a baseline and lay out the look fors to get a realistic idea if we are on pace to get past 8 and 4. Because inevitably, the opposite of these or the negation of these means that we probably will go 9 and 3. And that's kind of the point. That's what we are striving for. I want to be 9 and 3. So I want these things to be the things that we have so we can get over that hump. So, what would the signs be that this team isn't going to be 8 and 4? Let's talk about my top three. I'll give you those things. I'll give you some honorable mentions. And then there are some trump cards that even if we are exhibiting these things, I think we can get over by doing these other things. So, quick honorable mentions. What if we lose a wide receiver or two? This is just an honorable mention, but it gives me cause for concern. If we lose Mario Craver, we lose Casey Concepcion. Uh, these guys were so dynamic in the first game that I'm nervous. I'm biting my nails if one and or both of these go down. Now, the reason, however, that it's an honorable mention, because I think it's highly doubtful that both of them go down. Okay, highly doubtful. Number two, if they do, I think we actually have more depth in this position than we've ever had. It's probably the best wide receiver group we've ever had. So if one of them goes down, I think we can absorb that loss for a time. KC goes down, we still got Mario Craver, still got Bussy, we still got Ashton Bethel Roman. Don't forget, we still can rotate Nyblack and Theo in there, and our running backs can catch out of the backfield too. So we have some weapons there. So that's why it's just an honorable mention. It doesn't make my top three. Number two, honorable mention. We had no 50-yard no 50-yard rush plus rushers in this last game. And I know it was an odd game. It's a weird game. Like they were loading the box, they were trying to stop the run, and they wanted us to throw. Plus, we were trying to get Marcel established with his throwing. And then I think that's all on point. I think it's all on point. I want him to get his rhythm and where he needs to be by Notre Dame. But it's still a cause for concern. It's still a very big cause for concern. I'm just trying to think back to some of our more successful seasons, like last year. We were rushing for, gosh, was it over 200 yards per game last year? And this year it's just 110. And back in 2020, arguably our most successful season in a decade, it was somewhere in that same neighborhood. So to not have a 100-yard rusher and just barely be over 110 yards on the game just throws up a couple little, make me feverish a little bit, right? One more thing on the honorable mentions, and that's identity. I could probably toss this one in there because it's an overarching piece, but that's why I'm leaving it out, because it's not a specific piece, it's an overarching piece. The identity of this team. The identity is very much like culture. So whatever you do more than once is starting to turn into your culture. Now you may do many things more than once, right? So you have lots of pieces going on here, right? But the more you do something, the more that becomes your identity. Right now, this identity is can't hit the deep ball, had trouble stopping the run, and um, you know, gives up the big run. So this is the identity of this team. Not filling gaps, identity of this team. So if that happens again against Utah State, now we've got us a pattern going on. And now I'm to the point where I think, oh, so that might be what this team is. That would be the identity, right? You start to see it multiple times and you start to think, yeah, well, okay, that's what it is. And you wonder, how can they lick that? How can they get that out of there? And the answer is most times they can't. If that's just who they are, that's just who they are. It's time tested. It's true. What the team normally does in the first few games is what they are going to be for the entire season. That's why I'm looking for so much this next game, even though it's just Utah State, to see what this team's going to be doing. Will they grow? Will they fix the things that they said could be fixed? That's a big deal, a huge deal. We fix those things, and it's going to go a long ways to pushing this team up to that 9-3 mark. So, what are my big three? What are my three things that would maybe cause me to hit the panic button? I'm going to put these in order from least concerning to most concerning. Okay. My first one is losing Marcel Reed. I would hit that. I would hit that panic button if he goes down. Right. We've had this offseason where people doubt him. He comes in the first game. I think he puts a lot of that to rest. He's got a lot of detractors, and I get that. But here's what the man did. He went 22 of 34 for 65% completions. He gave us 289 yards. That's 8.5 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, y'all. 4 touchdowns through the air, 8 carries for 39 yards on top of all that. So I've got a problem, thinking that if he goes down, we're just going to replace that. I'm a big Miles O'Neal fan, but I don't think we're just going to come in there and replace that right off the bat. However, I would end up saying though, a lot of the stuff that Marcel was doing, I think are repeatable somewhat quickly. Of course, Miles is not going to have the legs that helps Marcel out. Um, and you just kind of think about some of the polishedness that Marcel brings to the table. Miles probably just can't replicate that right now. I think he'll be able to at some point. I like what I see so far, but it's just a very very limited set. So Marcel, with what he's done so far, I don't think we go out and replace that. Just also thinking about making me want to throw up, right? Thinking about losing a quarterback again for this season, just yuck, nasty. Let's not talk about it, right? But that's my first thing. The reason why it's my least concerning thing is because it hasn't actually happened yet. My next two are going to be things that have actually already manifested, but if we keep Marcel around for most of the season, which is one of my bold predictions, it's going to pay big dividends distributing that ball to Casey and Mario, getting the ball downfield, opening up different lanes with his feet, getting us some extra first downs that we probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Leaves 9-3 on the table. So this is the baseline. I'm looking at that game. I'm not happy about a few things, but I'm looking at what Marcel did. I'm thinking, all right, I can still see 9-3 out there. I can still see 9-3 out there. What I can't see 9-3 with though is this next one. 200 yards given up on the ground, right? That's a big deal right there. We again going back to our most successful years. Look about last year, pretty successful, 8-4 campaign regular season. We were 133 yards on the ground giving up per game average. Back to 2020, 92 yards per game given up. So when you think about having a successful season, having a team that's dominant, that does well, you do not want to be giving up many yards on the ground. But 200, 203 to be exact, concerning. Kind of worrying about whether or not I need to ease my hand over there just a little bit, right? This guy Henry, he goes for 177 yards rushing, 11.1 yard average for this guy, 2 TDs. Mind you, he did bust one for 75 yards. And there's a reason why he did that. And that's going to get me to my third reason in just a second. But a 75 yarder. Okay. I'm not one to say let's take plays away. I don't normally do that. But in the first game, what you're dealing with, it's a feasible conversation. But if I'm going to go back to the whole identity situation again and put that in there, we do something like that again, and I'm starting to think that's going to be a reoccurring issue, right? I'm starting to think that's part of our identity and something that we haven't actually addressed. And where would we need to address that from? My third thing, the most concerning thing for me right now, is the safety play. I think it's going to pay the most dividends for or against us. Okay. I have it listed third and most important, just behind the rushing yards, because this is something that actually has happened in the game, right? We actually did give up 200 plus yards in this game. Much more concerning than the prospect of just losing a player, which actually hasn't happened. Something would have to happen for that to happen. Uh, but 200 yards already happened. We already gave up the 200 yards. Our safety play has already happened. We've already missed that tackle. That one where we gave up the 75 yarder, our safety didn't safety. All there is to it. He's charged with not letting anybody get by him, and he completely whiffed. He did. Can't have that. But more than that, I mean, that's just one play. One play where concerning, I look at all the other stuff to honestly get my gauge on why safeties are so concerning. And this is probably going to be something that's unique to me. So I don't want to bore you all. And I'm no X's and O's guys. Look, I'm completely armchairing this the whole way through. All right. All, cards laid on the table. But as I watch these games, when the safeties are where they need to be, this team makes plays. Maybe I should do a little film study on this and point a few of these things out. You guys want that? Let me know. Hit it in the comments. When they're where they need to be, we make tackles. When they're not where they need to be, we don't. When I think it was Will Lee, when they busted a run on the outside, I want to say it even went for a touchdown. He didn't have outside contain. He didn't. And that was a reoccurring issue actually last year. Again, call back to the identity situation. Is that going to be what we are? We had an issue with that throughout all last season. I don't want to have it again this season, but got to be pointed out. Okay. So when Ratcliffe, when they're in the box, when they get into the box with good timing, when they're out of the box, making their reads and they're communicating, doing what they need to do, this team's fire, y'all. It is. So I put this right up there, and this is a fixable issue. This is something that we can really, really adjust, and it fixes the 200-yard rushing yards given up. It fixes that. It's not so much to me about the D line. They can take some criticism, sure, but if we can get 7 in the box, 8 in the box in the right situations, this team's going to be just fine. Look at what they did the second half. I mean, it was really there. You just got to watch those guys. Okay, so that's the man. That to me, and I really don't want to. I'm going to sound like a broken record the entire year unless this gets fixed. I started talking about it a little bit last year because I think it was really complicated for the defense to run what Elko wanted to do with the complication factors there from a safety standpoint. I think they got the most complicated job on the field. So we'll see what they can do. What if they do these things? How can they trump this? Well, I mentioned this about a few other teams. Auburn is one of them. They got Cam Coleman. You've got Lenore Sellers with South Carolina, Lagway with Florida. I'm trying to think if there's any others that are just that dynamic. Maley, Taylor Green with Arkansas. And these are some of the games I highlighted as like, hey, watch out. I'm not sure what's going to happen in these games right now, or at least I don't have a feeling either one way or another. I definitely don't have a crystal ball. So how are those going to go? Well, my thought on those is that those players can shape that game in just any given Saturday, right? The trump factor for us this year when it comes to these things, like if we're going to give up 200 yards rushing, how do we still win that game? I'll tell you, KC goes off. Mario Craver goes off. Terry Bussey returns a kickoff. KC returns another punt return for a touchdown. That's how you do that, right? And we have the people that can actually do that. We have plenty of weapons, which is the second trump factor, to be quite honest. The second trump factor is weapons, weapons, and more weapons. The more weapons you have, the less they can hold you down. It's just so. If we have a weapon like what Alabama had, I think it was 2022. No, it was 2023, and it was Isaiah Bond or something, right? And he comes in and like we just can't stop this guy. That's the type of game that KC has, Mario Craver has. I just don't think that we can be stopped. We can give up a lot of yards on the ground. And you can do that. You can give up 200 yards and still win a game. Some of those explosive plays, And as we saw, the Texas Ohio State game, you get fourth downs on, turnovers from a defensive standpoint. You can weather some of those 200-yard games, but you got to have lots of weapons, and we're going to have to be able to score on big scores, right? So our offense may not be doing that well, but if we're going to get it downfield and KC can bring down these catches like Isaiah Bond did, something like that, that will trump anything that's going on the other side. And we can do those. We can have those kinds of games, right? We've been victims of them in the past. This year, we have the ability to actually be the perpetrator. I really like the prospect of that. So wide receivers, special teams, weapons, weapons, weapons. Um, yeah, um, these are the things that I feel most comfortable about pointing out. There's something that this team has that they didn't used to have that could be the X factor. So don't take so much of these things as like the panic button, to be quite honest. Take them as this is the things that when we're doing the way they need to be done, the team's going to be massively dangerous, massively dangerous. So don't hit the panic button. Don't mean to scare you. Couple things to look out for, but also the things to see this next game. Will they be different? Okay. If I mean, like this is three in a row for this week, so I don't know what's going on. There could be a fourth. If you kind of figuring that out and you like that, you got a big Notre Dame preview coming up next week, and you want to get on that action, don't subscribe. I got new viewers coming in all the time. I've tried to stop this. It's not working. People are subscribing. I don't want you to subscribe. Those things are like what the creators ask for themselves. I don't want that. I want you to enjoy this. I see you viewing this. That's all I need. You want to fix your algorithm? I don't know. Hit the like button. Um, Share with your buddy. Turn on the notification bell. Well, do what you got to do to help your algorithm. If that means subscribing, you do what you got to do. I'm not asking for it. Don't want it. I just appreciate you being here. So thanks. We might see you later this week, but we'll definitely see you for a reaction after Utah State and then for Notre Dame. Thanks and gig 'em.